Hey everyone, how you all doing? Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. I've been looking forward to filming this reading vlog for quite a few months now, and I am just the most excited that I could be right now. I am going to be reading the Grisha trilogy for the very first time. There's a very long time where I did not know if this day would ever come. Okay, I have a very complicated history with this series and these books and fantasy in general, which we're gonna get into that. Okay, we're gonna get into it all, but just know that I am so excited to be making this video. It is insane. So this vlog is going to contain spoilers. I just thought that that would be the most fun way to talk about these books. So if you've not read them and you want to avoid spoilers, go read them and then come back to this video. But if you've read them, or if you just don't care about spoilers, then I am so excited to have you here. So let me quickly tell you my history with this series. So I joined booktube. I started watching it end of 2013, was really into it in 2014, and was discovering all of these new books, and then I officially joined it with my channel in 2015. And Shadow and Bone was very big at this time. Obviously, it's always been big. So I remember I checked out the first book from the library back when it was the old covers, which I miss those covers. These are pretty, I love them, but I also love those original covers. They just, the vibe of them, stunning. But I checked it out from the library and I think I read a chapter or two, and then for some reason I just wasn't vibing with it. I could not get into the story. To be fair, I did not give it a very fair shot. Like I said, I read like a chapter or two and then I was like, I'm not in the mood for this, and I put it down. And then I returned it to the library, and then I think it was 2019 I checked out the entire series from the library with full intentions of reading it, and then I just never touched them. They just sat on my shelf until I returned them to the library. And then the end of 2022 I read Six of Crows, and the only reason I did that is because I at that point genuinely didn't think that I was ever gonna read this series, but I wanted to experience Six of Crows, and I owned Six of Crows. My copy is currently in storage and I'm really sad about it, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll be reunited with it soon. And so I was like, I really want to experience Six of Crows. I want to experience the characters. Most people, I feel like, prefer Six of Crows over this trilogy anyway, and so I read that book. I'm like, it's fine. I feel like I will be able to grasp the story and the world enough. So I read Six of Crows and I enjoyed it. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I enjoyed it. And then in 2023 I read Crooked Kingdom, and I liked that one more, mainly because I was already familiar with the characters and the world, so I feel like I was just able to enjoy it more. So I'm very curious to do a reread of it, but my camera is dying, so I need to wrap this up. And then I watched the show Shadow and Bone after reading Crooked Kingdom, and I really enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed it. So then I started thinking about this series more, but I wasn't thinking about it like too seriously. But I liked the show. I liked the Crows parts of the show more than these parts, but that's besides the point. And then I recently came into possession of these 3 books this year. This is all I've been thinking about, and I just finished my rewatch of the show. Still mad that it's canceled, but it's fine. I rewatched the 2 seasons of the show because I figured that would give me the best chance of enjoying the books. Now hear me out. I have a very complicated relationship with fantasy. I find it hard to understand sometimes. My brain just not big brain enough, you know? But I've been in a huge fantasy mood recently, which is why I feel like this is the perfect time to read this series. So I figured doing a rewatch of the show, which I've already seen, but doing a rewatch of it would be really beneficial, I feel like, to read this, because I feel like it would get me excited to read the books, and it would also give me an easier way to digest the information of the world, of the characters, be familiar with it, so that when I read the books I wouldn't be confused about all the world building. So I wanted to basically give myself the best chance of enjoying these possible. And now I've fallen down a bit of a hole of Shadow and Bone, and I'm currently like obsessed. It's all I'm thinking of. I already kind of want to rewatch the show again, so maybe I'll do that after I read the books. I do feel like that was like 100% the right move for me, so I am just so excited to get into these books. I also recently came into possession of a copy of Crooked Kingdom. I bought it off of Pango Books. Probably spent too much money for it, especially considering the exchange into Canadian dollars, but I bought Crooked Kingdom with the red sprayed edges. I'm obsessed. You can't get these anymore in the stores. You can only get like regular pages, but I have the black sprayed edges of Six of Crows because I bought that when they were still selling it. So now I own this and I'm so happy. I'm sad, like I said, that I don't have Six of Crows on my shelf to go with it right now, but when we move into the new house they will be united and it'll be beautiful. But I also think reading Shadow and Bone is gonna make me want to do a reread of Six of Crows, which I feel like will be a fantastic time. So today I'm planning on picking up Shadow and Bone. I want to read this entire trilogy this week and I'm so excited about it. I've been dying to pick this book up, like dying to pick it up. So we're gonna start reading this book today, and I literally could not be more excited. I'm trying to go in with like low expectations, knowing that I prefer the Crow's storylines in the Shadow and Bone show, but I'm just really excited. I'm also just really curious to see how the books differ from the show and kind of see how it's split up in the books, because I feel like they definitely brush over some things in the show in the second season. Because looking at the covers, this book deals with the stag, this one's with the sea whip, and this one's with the firebird, whereas in the show season 2 is the sea whip and the firebird. So I'm very curious to kind of see the story kind of spread out a little bit more. So today we are starting with Shadow and Bone, and I could not be more excited. Okay, so I'm on page 75, chapter 5. We've just gotten to the part where the Fërdens, I've never actually tried to say that word myself, the Fërdens just attacked Alina in the carriage, and the Darkling comes and takes her. Now they're on his horse on their way to the Little Palace. So my thoughts on this so far is the writing feels very different than it did in the Six of Crows duology, which is to be expected. I feel like that book's in third person, whereas this one's in first. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure those are in a third person. Also, this came out like way before Six of Crows. This book came out in 2012, so quite a while ago. So it makes sense that there would be like some writing differences, a difference in the quality of writing. But so far, and I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be comparing this to the show a lot just because that is what I am more familiar with. But so far, it's not too different from the show. The beginning is a little bit different, but just in terms of like pacing, I guess I feel like the beginning of the show is a bit slower paced in a way than this, which neither is a bad thing. They're both fine for their own reasons. I have noticed a difference in like Mal and Alina and like their characters and their relationship, I guess. Maybe it's just because we are in Alina's head, so we're just seeing things through her lens, whereas in the show obviously we're not in like her head. But she seems very insecure about her friendship with Mal. It's also very obvious from the beginning that she has some sort of romantic feelings for Mal, whereas I feel like it wasn't necessarily super obvious in the show. Like I feel like you could be like, oh, she might have feelings for him, or maybe I don't know, but it's very obvious that like she has feelings for Mal and thinks that there's no way that he has ever thought about her that way, and she's not even sure like why they're friends and like if he wants to be her friend and like how long is he gonna stay around for. Whereas I feel like their friendship was very, very solid in the show, and it was very obvious that like Mal cared for her and was as like attached to her, like he valued their friendship in the same way that she did. Alina in the book so far seems like she's not sure about that. I'm not sure about like the security of their friendship. Mal in general just feels different to me, but obviously we haven't seen that much of him, and now they're on the way to the Little Palace, so I'm assuming we're not going to see Mal for a long while, because again, this book is in her POV, whereas the show is not. We follow all of the characters, so we do get to see Mal, and I'm just assuming that we don't get to see Mal at any point in this book until like they reunite at some point. So that's just kind of where I'm at and what I'm thinking. I also have a question that obviously you guys cannot answer, and I'm gonna find out the answer before this video goes up. But in the show, they refer to the Darkling more so as General Kurgan or Alexander, and not the Darkling. Like they only really call him the Darkling, I feel like, a few times in the show, and I remember being shocked by that when I first watched it, and I was like, he has a name, like his name is Kurgan, Alexander Kurgan, General Kurgan, and I was shocked to find out that he had an actual name, because I'd only ever heard him referred to as the Darkling, and so far in the book he's only been called the Darkling. And so now I'm wondering, did they just give him that name in the show? Do we find out his name at any point in the books? Because I swear, in all of my time on YouTube where people have been raving about this book, I had never heard them use a name other than the Darkling until I watched the show. So that's just kind of a question that is in my mind right now, and I've been wondering it since I first watched the show. But so far, I'm having a good time. It's a quick read. I've been reading it quite quickly, and I'm excited to get to the little palace and kind of see how that differs to what happens in the show. And again, yeah, I'm just very interested to see how the books feel in relation to the show, because again, the show does follow all the characters. Like, we follow all the different characters and all their different journeys, and then obviously the crows are intertwined in that, whereas I'm assuming we never see them in this trilogy. I don't think we see them in this trilogy at all. I'm just wondering about the flow of this book and how it's going to feel in comparison to the show, where we're just following Alina and we're just in her head. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be very different. But I am glad that I rewatched the show before reading this, and I'm glad that I waited until I'd watched the show in general to get to this, because I feel like I have a much better grasp on the world and all of the terms being thrown around, because leigh Bardugo really just like drops you into this world and like doesn't give like a lot of explanation about anything, which I guess that's just what fantasy books are. Like, you're just thrown into a world and you're like, okay, like this is where we are. So a few times I have had to like go to the front and look at the little like term guide that they have about all the different Grisha, which I feel like is a little bit different than in the show. I could be wrong. They have like different like categories, which I'm not even gonna try to pronounce these, but like the heartrenders and the healers are like this certain type of Grisha, and I feel like they never actually refer to them like that in the show. They're just called heartrenders, or they're just called durasts or whatever. Also, there was a part where she was talking to one of her like guards or whatever in the carriage, and I guess you can choose what kind of like Grisha you want to be within the 3 categories. So if you're in the first one, the corporalki, no, but that you can choose to be a heartrender or a healer, whereas I just kind of got the impression in the show that you are what you are and you don't have a say in it. Like, you are a heartrender. Maybe that's just me. Maybe they changed it, I don't know. Some world building things I've got some questions about. But yeah, there's definitely like a lot of new words being thrown around that I feel like I would be way more confused by if I hadn't watched the show. I also have another question while we're here, while I'm thinking of it. In the show, Alina is never tested. I also don't know if Mal was ever tested to see if they are Grisha, whereas Alina is saying that she was tested when she was 8. So I don't know if she's lying to these Grisha people with her in the carriage or whatever, saying that she was when she actually wasn't, because in the show you can't be tested if you're injured or something, and so she purposefully like cut her hand so that she wouldn't be tested because she was scared of being separated from Mal. And I'm wondering if it's the same in this and she's just lying about it. It is a little bit different so far, but I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I'm excited to continue, excited to get to the little palace. Also, the journey to get to the little palace is longer. Like in the show, it seemed like it all happened within one day, and so far it's been like a long journey. And now at the beginning of chapter 5 it says the next few days, and they're still traveling. So I understand like things have to be faster paced in a like show or like an adaptation. It's just interesting. It's so interesting to see the differences, and usually I feel like people, me included, read the book first and then watch the show, so it's always a fun and interesting experience when I do the opposite of that. I already know that like I'm not gonna like this as much as I like the Six of Crows duology. And the funny thing is when I first read the duology, I was like, I like it. I'm not obsessed with it, but like I didn't dislike it, and that felt like a huge win. But I have not been able to stop thinking about those characters since I first read the duology, since I've watched the show. And when I was just rewatching it, I was so giddy every time the crows came on screen. So I'm convinced that I'm gonna love that duology like 10 times more when I reread it, now that like I have a better understanding of everything, because I just love the crows so much. So I already know that like this isn't gonna compare to that, because I already know that in the show I prefer the crows over these characters. But like I said, I'm just here for a good time, okay? I'm in my fantasy era, and I feel like this is a great series to kind of start off with, or to kind of continue this fantasy era. I'm having a good time, but I cannot believe that I'm reading the series. It's been a long time coming. Me and Alina, we are one and the same, because me too. This is exactly how I would respond to this situation. This is information that I really appreciate getting, because this is something that I didn't fully understand in the show. It was never explained how the Darkling could be as old as he was. So here it says, our power makes us stronger. It feeds us instead of consuming us. Most Grisha live long lives. And then he said the length of a Grisha's life is proportional to his or her power. The greater the power, the longer the life. And when that power is amplified, and then she said, and you're a living amplifier. This makes so much sense. this is the context that you don't get in like a TV show adaptation. So I appreciate knowing this information now, and everything kind of makes sense. Okay, so it's the next day now and I'm on page 184. So not a whole lot has happened. I can't remember exactly the last thing I updated you on, but we are at the little palace. Alina did her whole little like presentation for the king to show off her powers. She's been training with Bagra and with the other Grisha, but she's been having a lot of difficulty calling upon her power until the scene that I just read where she was remembering Mal and she was really angry and she was homesick over him. And then she was remembering when the Grisha came to test her and Mal to see if they were also Grisha, and she was remembering it, I think, for the first time, like really clearly, and she realized that she has been suppressing her power her entire life. Like, she realized that her and Mal were different. Like, she felt that deep within her because the Grisha who was with her was an amplifier, so it was trying to like call upon her power, so she shoved it down, and she's been shoving it down ever since. So now she is able to call upon her magic, and Bagra is like, okay, like let's get started. What else has happened? We met David for like a very brief second. We met David, and I really like him from what we do see of him in the show, so I'm excited to kind of see maybe more of him in the books. So far his introduction was very minimal, like it was brief, so I'm intrigued to see how that plays out in the rest of the book. They've talked about the stag. The Darkling wants to get an amplifier for Alina, and what's different about the show to the book is he like goes on a mission to find the stag without telling anybody. Like, he doesn't tell Alina that he's looking for the stag, at least not right away. My memory's really bad, so I'm like trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure he just like sends like a notice to the second army to find the stag, and that's when Mal goes off to find the stag, which obviously we don't get to see. So I don't know if that's just like happening behind the scenes and they just like actually showed us what was going on in the show, whereas maybe we just end up hearing about it when they like get reunited in the book. I'm not sure. But the Darkling was like talking to Bagra about getting Alina an amplifier, and she's like, you're a fool. We love Bagra, she's iconic. And then Alina is like, duh, I want an amplifier, like I can't call upon my magic on my own, why didn't I think of this before? So she's kind of like in on it, on wanting to find the stag and wanting the amplifier, which I think is a little bit of an interesting distinction. Oh, we've also met Zoya, and the whole like fight scene between them went down where they were like battling, and she used her magic on Alina when she wasn't supposed to. But that's really all we've seen of Zoya. But yeah, I'm almost halfway through the book now, and I think the pacing in the first season, which is about the first book, is better. Like, it just kind of shows things a little bit better, and then obviously we do get to see the other characters. So we have the crows, which I'm going to try not to talk about, but we do see the crows. But we also get to see Mal and his story and his POV, which I just enjoy. So being in Alina's head all the time, not my absolute favorite, but to be expected. Like, I knew that going into this. I do have to say though that so far I like Alina less in this book than I did in the show. I think they made her a little more tolerable in the show. She is very like down on herself in this book and is constantly talking about like how she's not pretty and she doesn't belong with the Grisha because they're all so beautiful and she's just not, even with Genya like tailoring her face to be like more smoothed out or whatever. So she's just constantly like hating on herself, which I feel like was a very popular thing to do in YA books in this time. A lot of female characters, like, they couldn't think that they were beautiful. Every main character thought that they were ugly, didn't think they were very pretty. So that doesn't surprise me, it's just unfortunate. I'm enjoying it so far. I would say at this point I like the show better, like the first season in comparison to this first book. I do think is better in some regards. I do think the world building is explained a bit better in the book. Like, it's just more expansive, because I feel like maybe it's just me, okay, very possible, could just be me, but I feel like I did not understand that the Darkling was an amplifier. So like when he like cut Alina in the first season, or like helped her show her powers to the king, I don't think I realized that that was because he himself is an amplifier, but I think that might just be me being stupid. And I don't think I realized that Bagra was an amplifier until the second season, but again, could just be a me thing. Maybe they mention it and I just don't remember. I do think that like what they did in the show, like I understood it well enough and I didn't realize that I was missing all this information, so I do think it's fine, and I'm enjoying getting that extra information now. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and keep reading. I don't know how far I want to get into this book today, but side note, I was talking to Lisa about these books and the show earlier, and we mentioned King of Scars because I did not realize fully, I guess, that in season 2, like, I knew that season 2 was a mess and I knew that people didn't like it, but I don't think I realized that people didn't like it because it includes stuff from like every single Grisha book. So it includes things obviously from the second and third book of Shadow and Bone. It also includes things from Crooked Kingdom, and apparently it also includes things from the King of Scars duology. I figured that it was taking some things from King of Scars, like little nuggets, just to kind of like lead into the possibility of a next season, just to kind of, you know, get you excited about it, because there's just some stuff with Nikolai that happens at the end of season 2, but I didn't realize it was also from like Rule of Wolves and like things like that. So like it was messy, and I'm wondering, like, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in the writer's room to figure out what made them decide to like throw in all these different storylines. But we were talking about that, and I was like, you know what, like, I've never actually seriously considered ever reading King of Scars because everyone just seems to not like it. People seem to like King of Scars better than Rule of Wolves. As like a whole duology, people just don't really like it that much. But now I'm like, is my hyperfixation on the Grishaverse books going to lead me to want to read them? And she's like, I kind of want your opinion on things, so it would be kind of funny to force you to read them. So here's my question that I am posing to you Grisha fans. Do you think I should read the King of Scars duology? Like, do you think it'll be entertaining enough to read? Because if I read it, I will be making a vlog for it. So let me know if you want to see a vlog where I read the King of Scars duology, because if you guys want it, I will definitely do it. I do think it could lend to a bit of a chaotic fun time reading vlog wise, so let me know down below your thoughts, spoiler-free thoughts on the King of Scars duology, and if you'd be interested in seeing a spoiler vlog like this one for that duology. But I'm gonna get back to reading now, and hopefully I can get a bit more done because I am having a really fun time with this. I just remembered I wanted to read a passage from this last chapter that I read about when she decides to like let go of the past and access her power. So it says, it was time to let go. That day on the Shadowfold, Mal had saved my life and I had saved his. Maybe that was meant to be the end of us. The thought filled me with grief. Grief for the dreams we'd shared, for the love I'd felt, for the hopeful girl I would never be again. That grief flooded through me, dissolving a knot that I hadn't even known was there. I closed my eyes, feeling tears slide down my cheeks, and I reached out to the thing within me that I'd kept hidden for so long. I'm sorry, I whispered to it. I'm sorry I left you so long in the dark. I'm sorry, but I'm ready now. Oh, just, I don't know why, but that whole like passage gave me chills. Her relationship with Maria Nadia is also so different in the book so far than it is in the show, because I feel like in the show she immediately hits it off with them, and in here she says, I doubted I'd ever really enjoy being around Maria Nadia. I don't know, I think I much prefer the show for little character and relationship things like this, but at least she's still close with Genya, so at least there's that. Okay, we just had our first proper mention of Nikolai, well, both of the princes, but Nikolai specifically. They were talking about the oldest prince, and then Alina says, what about the other one? And then they talk about the fact that he might not be strictly royal, and then Genya says, I think he's off studying shipbuilding or something equally dull. And I am glad that they mentioned Nikolai in this first book, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they ever mentioned Nikolai or either of the princes, like either of the king and queen's children in the first season, because I remember getting to season 2 and being like, Nikolai just came out of nowhere. Like, they didn't mention him at all in the first season, not even like a little sprinkle of mention like this, which I think wouldn't have been that hard to do. But I'm glad that they mentioned Nikolai because it has me excited. I really want to meet Nikolai. I'm assuming we don't meet him until the second book, but I'm very excited about it. I wish I was recording so that you guys could have seen the absolute shock on my face when I read this line. So this is not how it happens in the show. I actually would say that in the show, Alina is the one who kisses the Darkling, and it's in totally different circumstances, and I like it in the show better, and I'm gonna try really hard to stop comparing this so directly to the show. But this was just so sudden and abrupt, and I feel like Alina and the Darkling don't spend enough time together in the book at this point for this to make any sense, whereas I felt like in the show it felt like it made slightly more sense, but maybe that's just because I watched the show first and not read the book. But like, this just felt so abrupt to me. Like, when it says he looked genuinely baffled, that's what I looked like. I looked genuinely baffled when I read this line, because what do you mean? That came out of absolutely nowhere. Okay, I'm on page 232 now, and quite a bit has happened. So we are currently in the winter fate part of the story, and I'm sorry to bring the show up again and to bring up the crows, but all I can picture is the crows like lurking around the winter fate trying to get Alina, and they're just not here, and it's making me sad. I miss the crows. Okay, so that's the first thing that I have to mention is about the winter fate. There are no crows, obviously, and I'm sad about it, but things are happening a little bit differently. If I'm remembering correctly, the winter fate in the show is still like this big huge thing. I'm also not done the winter fate yet, we still have some things to go. But the way it happens in the show is, you know, winter fate happens, the crows are there to capture Alina. Mal comes to tell the Darkling that he found the stag, which we just saw Mal, which I'll get to in a second. At some point, Alina and the Darkling kiss, which I think happens during the winter fate. Baghra comes and tells her, you gotta get out of here. Darkling ain't who he says he is. And then Alina runs away and ends up stowing away with the crows, which I'm curious to see what happens in the book with that. But the way that it's happening here is the whole demonstration happens with the winter fate. Immediately after, the Darkling takes her into a room and just starts making out with her, but then he has to go and deal with the stag, which I do believe is how it happens in the show as well. And then Alina leaves, she goes to the party for a little bit, and then she sees a bunch of soldiers and she sees Mal. So her and Mal have just had their like first interaction since she was taken away to the little palace, and you can tell he has some resentment. He's not very happy, and he believes that the Darkling owns her. So it does seem like the show just kind of filled in the blanks of what we're not seeing of Mal's story. So I'm assuming at some point we might hear more about his story. Also, if it does follow what happens in the show, which I'm assuming it does because leigh Bardugo worked very closely with the show, so I'm assuming like she filled in the blanks there for them, then that means that his friends are dead because they died finding the stag in the show. Blanking on their names right now, but his two friends that were mentioned at the beginning of the book, they die finding the stag. They're killed by the Fëardens. I'm thinking that's part of the reason about why he's not being so happy right now. He's a little pissed. He's not quite himself, and I just find it interesting that this is how they see each other for the first time, because in the show he's at the palace but they don't run into each other because I'm pretty sure the Darkling like keeps them away from each other, and then Alina runs away and then they meet each other in the forest, and he's able to find her because the whole Firebird situation that happens later on. I'm very curious to see how this ends. Okay, I just glanced down and Baghra is in her room. So Baghra is about to tell her to get the hell out of there. So things are about to happen. So I'm gonna get back to reading now because things are about to get exciting. And I'm really excited to get out of the little palace and kind of see more of the world and what's gonna happen, and to see how it compares to the show, because let's just be real, I'm just gonna keep comparing it to the show. So I forgot that there was extra content at the back of this book. Okay, I didn't actually forget, but I forgot to like take that into account when looking at how much I had left. I only have this much left of the book. All of this is the extra content, so I just have this. I'm on page 264, so I have just under 100 pages left. So we're now at the part where Mal has found Alina. She's been running for quite a while, hiding, and he has now found her, and I think maybe she's gonna say in this next chapter that they should go find the stag before the Darkling does. So I'm gonna try to finish this book today. So I'm gonna get back to reading again. Like I said, it's a very exciting part of the book. They are no longer in the little palace. We're gonna find the stag soon, and I'm here for it because I really like the end of season 1. So I'm just having a blast right now, truly. Oh my goodness. Mal just kissed Alina, and that does not happen in the show until season 2. Oh my god, I love it so much. I don't necessarily love Mal in the book yet, but I'm picturing him in combination with the Mal from the show, because in the book so far it seems like he doesn't really care about Alina, like at the beginning, and she was like all insecure about it. And like this whole paragraph right here is him saying how like he missed her every hour, and he says, I've risked my life for you, I've walked half the length of Ravka for you, and I'd do it again and again and again just to be with you, just to starve with you and freeze with you, and hear you complain about hard cheese every day, so don't tell me we don't belong together. So cute. But then he ends it to say, I'm sorry it took me so long to see you, Alina, but I see you now. Wait, that did happen in the show, never mind. But I feel like it was in different context. Like, I feel like this was particularly about her, like, Grisha powers, and him not, like, accepting that part or whatever, and, like, thinking that, like, she was lying to him and, like, whatever. But in this, it's more of, like, he just didn't realize how much he cared about her. Maybe I'm interpreting that wrong in either interpretation of, like, the book or the show. But I just remembered as I was talking that this line is in the show. But this beautiful paragraph. I cannot believe I can finally say these words, but I just finished Shadow and Bone. Can we just take a second? So I just finished reading this book. I also read the bonus content, and before we get into like the end of the book, the lost letter from Mal that is in the bonus content is quite long, way longer than I thought it was going to be, and it does give a lot of insight into Mal's own journey throughout the book. Definitely some parts of that I can see inspired his parts in the show, so that was fun to learn about. But the ending of the book is pretty much the same as the ending of the show. It does go through them finding the stag and the Darkling using it as an amplifier, and then them going into the fold and him making his whole big display of extending the fold, and then also Alina leaving him in the fold and escaping with Mal. But overall thoughts on this book, I enjoyed it. It's fun. I think I like it more because of the show, which is kind of what I thought. Like, I knew I wasn't gonna watch the show before reading Six of Crows, but I knew that if I was ever gonna read this, I would have to watch the show first. So I'm glad that I did that, because I feel like it only enhanced my experience of reading this book, which isn't always the case. Usually it's, you know, read the book before you watch the show or the movie, but in this case this has worked out well for me. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not like my favorite thing in the entire world, which I wasn't expecting it to be, because I know that I love the Crows more than I like these characters. But overall, my feelings on this are relatively positive, and I'm really excited to continue on to the next book. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to meet Nikolai officially, and I could not be more excited for that. So with that, I'm going to go chill out in my room for a while, and I'm going to be picking up Siege and Storm tomorrow. Okay, so I've started Siege and Storm, and I'm now on chapter 2, and already things are quite different from the show, which I guess was to be expected, considering they apparently combined a million books into season 2 and it was a mess. Like, I knew that things were going to be different, but I didn't realize they were going to be like so different right off the bat. So we start off with another before chapter of, you know, kind of catching up of where Mal and Alina are. They basically stowed away on a ship, and now they're in this new place that I'm forgetting what it's called. I think they're in Novia Zem, but regardless, they are somewhere else. They are working to pay for their trip west, maybe somewhere. They're going somewhere so they can kind of live normal lives, escape Ravka, escape the Sun Summoner and the Darkling and all of the things like that. Grisha, Alina, and Mal meet up after their work day, and they're going back to the place that they are staying, and the Darkling and a bunch of Grisha are there in their room, and we see the Darkling's like shadow creatures for the first time, and I'm just kind of like confused, because in the show she doesn't know that the Darkling is alive until like quite a few episodes in. She has like those weird little like dream things where he comes to her and she's not sure if it's real or not, but like she's like, he's dead, and Mal keeps trying to convince her that he's dead. And we don't have that. They get seen by the First Army, and since Mal is a deserter, that causes all sorts of issues, and then they end up going on Sturmon's ship, Nikolai's ship, and that's how they like escape. I'm very curious, because I feel like this book and the next one obviously are going to come with a lot more surprises and a lot more things for me to discover that weren't portrayed in the show correctly or at all. And I'm really excited by that actually, because I feel like the first book was like more or less pretty close to the show. Another thing to mention that I did not mention, I don't think yesterday when I finished Shadow and Bone, but Alina learns the cut in the first book, and she just tried using it on the shadow creatures. And in the show, a big part of season 2, well, not a big part, but like she does talk about like, I need to learn how to do the cut, which is very interesting. So I'm gonna get back to reading because I'm very intrigued about how this is going to play out now that it's different than the show. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. She's on a ship, apparently Sturmon's prisoner, but the Darkling and all the Grisha are there? What is happening? I don't know. I'm on page 61 now, and this is so different to the show. My goodness. So what has happened since I last updated? Sturmond is working for the Darkling. Like, the Darkling is paying him to like be on the ship and like control the ship and whatever. And the Darkling went to Mal and it's like, I need you to track down the Sea Whip. I need you to find the Sea Whip. And Alina is like, you're crazy. Grisha can't have more than one amplifier. All the books say that. And he's like, Morozova? I always can say it when I'm reading it, and the second I try to say it out loud, I forget. Yeah, Morozova's amplifiers. He's like, they're different, which I know from the show. But in the show, it's Alina who wants to go after the Sea Whip and the Firebird, and she's doing it without the Darkling knowing. So this is crazy. But in the book, it's the Darkling that wants to go after the Sea Whip. And is like, what, gonna force it on Alina just like the stag? Crazy. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. I'm curious to see how the scene with the Sea Whip goes down. I think it's about to happen, which is crazy because like we're barely into the book at all. I thought it was gonna take at least a little bit longer, and I'm curious to see how we get away from the Darkling. How does Alina and them become friends with Sturmond? I have so many questions, and I feel like reading these is only gonna like prove to me why people hate the second season of Shadow and Bone so much. I think it's so messy because I never understood it before. Like, I understood it a little bit, but like this is so different so far. So I'm like really intrigued to continue reading and see how things differ. So I'm gonna get back to reading because I don't know where this is going and how it's gonna differ from the show. Okay, I'm on page 74 now, and things just went to hell. All hell just broke loose. Oh my goodness. They found the Sea Whip. They captured the Sea Whip. And then Sturmond betrayed the Darkling, took Alina and Mal and ran away to like a different ship with the Sea Whip. Big like little battle moment happened. Crazy. Crazy. So the next chapter, I'm assuming we're gonna find out like what's going on. But like, Sturmond just was like, hell no, I'm gonna backstab you. So now they have the Sea Whip, I'm pretty sure. That was actually like a really fun, intense little scene, and I kind of wish we had that in the show. Although I like that in the show Alina doesn't know that the Darkling is alive for a while. So like, I don't know how they would have had this scene in the show, but I really kind of liked it. I don't know, it was kind of more exciting than the way that they got the Sea Whip in the show, although that was exciting in its own right as well. Let's go, it's Nikolai. I am so beyond glad that Alina punching Nikolai was from the book and not just from the show. This is amazing. Okay, so obviously I just got to the part where Sturmond reveals that he is indeed Nikolai Lantsov, and I loved it. I was kind of curious while reading because his appearance was not what it was in the show. He had like copper hair, I think, and like different features, and I was like, what's going on here? But I'm not gonna lie, I did for a second, just for a split second, think that in the show they just like combined two characters into one and like made a whole different storyline. I didn't really believe it, but like for a split second that's what I thought. But no, instead Tolia, who was one of the twins, Tolia, all of a sudden I can't say his name, but him and Tamar. Anyways, he is not a tailor, but like a tailor. They didn't specify exactly what he is. We know that he's a heartrender because him and Tamar are both heartrenders, but he can change appearances like Genya, like a tailor. So he tailored Nikolai's appearance to be different so that he wouldn't be recognized as Nikolai, which I find so interesting because in the show, nobody knew that he was Nikolai, not even like his crew. But the vibe I'm getting, and obviously if Tolia had to like alter Nikolai's appearance, that means that he did know that he was Nikolai. And that's just wild to me. I don't know if that means anything, like if that really is gonna change anything going forward, but I just thought that was so interesting. And obviously, like I just said, we had Alina punch Nikolai at the end, which is like one of the most iconic parts of season 2. And so I'm really glad that that came from the book. I was wondering if that came from the book or not, and it did, and so I'm really happy about that. But their whole like adventure into the fold, because that's the part we were just at where the hummingbird was destroyed in the fold, I feel like was more exciting in the book than it was in the show. I also feel like when I was rewatching the show, I might have been on my phone at that point when they were going into the fold, so I could be wrong because I was on my phone. It just felt exciting, like they were fighting the Volcra and they found a nest of Volcra, and that was kind of fun. I don't know, it was exciting. I like when we're in the fold because it's just kind of like chaotic. And the Darkling came to Alina when they were in the fold, and that kind of freaked her out. Yeah, I don't know, I'm really enjoying this and I'm excited to continue, but I'm just excited that Nikolai is here, and I'm so, I mean, obviously he's been here, but like now he's Nikolai, he's not Stormont, and I'm really intrigued to see more from him because he's everybody's favorite character, and I really enjoyed him in the show, but I can only imagine that we're gonna get more of him considering that they like combined a lot of books for that one season. So I'm assuming that this one in particular got condensed. Maybe that's just the vibe that I got from the show, but I have a feeling there's a lot more to see of Nikolai, and I'm really excited about it. Stop. Oh my god, Mal being jealous because he thought he was gonna get to punch Nikolai. Priceless. I'm obsessed. I just got so excited at the mention of Ketterdam. I love it so much. God, I want to reread Six of Crows so badly now. So Nikolai just proposed the idea to Alina that she be his wife so that they can like save Ravka and everything. And Mal obviously has thoughts and feelings about this. And then Stormont, Nikolai just calls him a heart sicko. And is he wrong? No. Right, Chin Chin? Yeah, he is a heart sicko. Well, now Nikolai is just poking the damn bear. I kinda love him though. Okay, it's not like I'm gonna start shipping Nikolai and Alina, but this, him saying please don't punch me and then kissing her, really reminds me of that one scene in Shatter Me when Warner, I think, says please don't shoot me for this, and then he kisses Juliet. There's something about that, I don't know why. And then on the next page, when she kicks him, she's like, next time you try something like that, I won't kick you, I'll cut you in half. I'm loving their like interactions with each other. I think it's fun, I think it's entertaining, and I'm really intrigued to see more from Nikolai. And in the show, she did accept his marriage proposal, whereas in the book, so far, she has rejected it. I'm assuming at some point he'll ask again, especially after pulling a stunt like that. So I'm assuming in the show they just had to kind of like get to things a little bit quicker. I also believe they're on their way to like the actual like grand palace, because she mentioned the little palace. So I'm really intrigued to see where things are going. This is actually insane. So they arrived at the Grand Palace or whatever, and the king said that Alina could be the like commander of the second army, and all the Grisha are kind of like saying, no, we don't want that, you should not be in charge of us, like whatever. And she's so annoyed that she literally is about to like cut Sergei in half. Like, she literally said, if they needed a lesson, I would give it to them. They could argue over the pieces of Sergei's body. And, like, only at the last second does she realize what's happening. At the last second, some sliver of sanity pierced the buzzing haze of my anger. This is wild. But I'm pretty sure on the back of the book, it talks about this. It says, but as the truth of Alina's destiny unfolds, she slips deeper into the Darkling's deadly game of forbidden magic and further away from her humanity. So it looks like she's kind of like losing herself a little bit in all of this, which I think is really interesting, because that's something that I feel like they don't really delve deep into in the show, of her kind of like falling into this a little bit. So I think this is really interesting, but also crazy. Like the fact that this dude just kind of was like defying her a little bit and kind of annoying her, and she was like about to cut him in half. Like, Alina, take a deep breath, girl, calm down. Okay, I liked Nikolai before, but like the more we get from him, the more I love him. So Mal calls him Prince Perfect, and he says, I've had a lot of nicknames, but that one is easily the most accurate. Like, I just love his whole vibe so much. Okay, I feel like in the years of people talking about this book series, I feel like everyone hates Mal, Maybe I'm wrong about that, or maybe they just hate Mal with Alina. I'm not entirely sure, but I kind of love him, and like this interaction is just like an example of that. So Nikolai says, "I've come to issue an invitation." "Is it a ball?" asked Mal. "I do so hope it's to a ball." "Well, I'm sure you dance a magnificent waltz." "No." Like, especially like Mal and Nikolai in the way they interact. Like, the Prince Perfect thing was just on this page. So like, a few paragraphs later we have this gem of an interaction as well. And maybe I need to like go back and watch some really old booktube videos. I feel like, and maybe you guys can tell me in the comments too, but I feel like everyone hated on Mal, especially back in the day. I kind of like him. I've got a Joey here with me now. What? Nikolai? My goodness, he just said, "You know, for two people with a love eternal, you're awfully insecure." Stop it right now. He was so right for this. Like, truly though, like especially in that first book, like for two people who are best friends and like whose feelings are very obvious, like they're so insecure about each other. And like, I get it, it makes sense, especially since, you know, this is like a young adult and they're teenagers, but like, you know what, he said what he said and he meant it, and he's so real for that. Okay, so Alina just said, "You sound just like the Darkling." And then Nikolai, he just comes out and he's like, "If you ever have trouble telling us apart, look for the person who isn't torturing you or trying to kill Mal. That will be me." You know what? He was so real for that too. So I've finished Siege and Storm, book 2 in the Grisha trilogy, and I have a lot of thoughts. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts to go through. So I don't even remember like the last thing that I updated on specifically, but I feel like it was like early on in the book, like maybe in the first half of the book. Like, I did not really update you guys on many of my thoughts throughout the story, but so many crazy things happened, and I feel like I mainly wrote down things that like didn't happen in the show so that I could discuss that. But one, Alina goes to visit Baghra at one point. So Baghra in the show is off with the Darkling, like he has her locked up in a cage somewhere. And I don't know if that comes in Ruin and Rising, because of the way this book ends with him taking over the throne, which is just crazy, and we'll like get to that. But Baghra is still at the little palace, but she's like in her little hut place and she doesn't talk to anybody, doesn't come out, doesn't do anything, like won't even talk to Alina. But Alina goes to visit her when she finds out that she's still there, and we find out that the Darkling took out her eyes. Like, she has no eyes anymore. What is with leigh Bardugo and like ripping out eyeballs? Okay, because that's like the big thing that I remember in Six of Crows is Kaz ripping out an eyeball, and now Baghra just has no eyes. Leigh Bardugo has a thing with eyes, I'm telling you. So that was like just so crazy, and I wasn't expecting for that to be a thing. Like, when she went to go visit Baghra, black pits, there was no eyes there. Freaky. There was lots of training and planning to fight the Darkling. That's like what the majority of this book was. Also, there's this crazy part where Tamar, Alina, and Mal go to some party and the apparat shows up, the priest guy, and he says he has precious things of the Darkling, and Alina assumes, I don't know if he actually does, but Alina assumes that means he has Morozova's journals. But then Mal and Tamar show up and the priest disappears, and we find out later on at the end that Tamar and Toya actually like were working with the priest, and that's how the priest knew that Alina was there, which is crazy, and I did not see coming because that was not in the show. And the apparat is not really in the second season. At first I thought that he wasn't in the second season at all, but then I remembered a part at the very end where he's with Nikolai, and I can't remember if he's at any other part of that season, but for sure he's at the end with Nikolai. But this whole plot line was just not there, which like makes sense because the whole part of like the apparat like going away and like basically telling all of these people that Alina's a saint and she died and came back to life, and all of these people like rally for her, that was never in the show either. And I feel like that's smart. Like, a lot of things like that need to be cut out in adaptations. There was a lot of Mal and Alina drama in this book, which was present in the second season but condensed massively, obviously because of time constraints, and they're mixing this book with Ruin and Rising. But he feels like they barely see each other anymore, thinks she's changed since she got the 2 amplifiers, and they're essentially like breaking up I guess, when he goes to kiss her, but the Darkling shows up and like those vision things that he's doing that Alina's not quite sure what it is, but he's showing up and she flinches when she sees him, and Mal thinks that it's because he tried to kiss her, and so he gets really frustrated and he leaves and he's like, I can't do this anymore. Just a lot of drama with Mal and Alina, and I can see maybe why people find Mal annoying overall, because he was definitely annoying me more in this book than he did in Shadow and Bone. He was getting drunk a lot of the times, he was fighting, like doing like fights with people, which, speaking of, after one of the fights he kisses Zoya and Alina sees. He doesn't know that Alina's there, but he kisses Zoya, and poor Alina, I felt for her in that moment. I felt so bad. And like, to be fair, she almost kissed Nikolai, and like would have kissed Nikolai if Nikolai was not like, I want to kiss you, but like I don't want you to be thinking of him and like just using me to get over him kind of vibe. Okay, and then like the big action part of the book happens near the end, and it's Nikolai's birthday, which I believe in the show is changed to Nikolai and Alina's engagement party. His brother was an idiot, basically. I can't remember exactly what he did. I think he tried to like make an alliance with the Faradins, but they are working with the Darkling, and so the Darkling and his Nichevoya come and attack, and his brother dies. Goodbye, along with some others. In the show it's pretty clear, I'm pretty sure, that the king dies as well as the prince. I can't remember what his name is, and it's Nikolai and his mom who get out, but we don't know what happens to Nikolai kind of after this, or the queen. I don't know where the queen is either. But then Genya is there. Genya comes out and she's all attacked from the Nichevoya, which we get to see in the show, and it's when she's trying to run away with David, which does not happen in the book. David is with Alina, so that whole situation doesn't come up. I like how they did it in the show better. I also just like David in the show better. He's kind of like more off-putting, I guess, in the books. Like, he's just way more like awkward and charming in the show. Alina somehow turns the Darkling's creatures against him, like using her magic or using Murzost. I don't know what she does, but she turns his creatures against him, and then they escape into like the tunnels with the priest, and like that's where they find out that Tamara and Toya were working with the priest, and crazy things at the end. And then the Darkling has now taken over the throne, so maybe the queen's also gone, I don't know, but he's taken over the throne at the Grand Palace. Yeah, this book was just so different from the show, which I was expecting, you know, since they do merge this book with book 3, but I wasn't expecting it to be so different. I think I maybe thought that everything that was from this book in the show would be exactly how it happened in the book. I don't know why I thought that, but I think that's kind of where my brain went. And so when it wasn't like that, I was like, whoa, like, this is different. I'm having a very fun time with this. And I read the interview at the end of this book with Leigh Bardugo, and she mentions that we're gonna find out the Darkling's real name in the final book, which is a question that I've had this entire time, because they only refer to him as the Darkling. But from the get-go, like, they don't even call him the Darkling right away in the show. They just call him General Kerrigan. And then we find out his name is Alexander, and then I don't even remember when the first mention of the Darkling is, but it's like not right away. And so that's like not the way that we're first introduced to him in the show, which I just think is so interesting. And I just want to know like what went into the decision of like not revealing his name right away in the books, and he's only ever referred to as the Darkling, and no one ever like questions what his name is. Like, I don't know. I also just finished the story at the end, The Tailor. It's a Genya story. I finished this book yesterday, but I just read the story a minute ago, and I enjoyed it. You know, it was basically taking place in the first book after Zoya has broken Alina's ribs and she's in the infirmary, and she basically gives Genya a letter to deliver to Mal, and Genya goes to talk to the Darkling about it. Then we get to see her interact with the queen, and then she talks about her situation with the king a little bit, which, not fun. Yeah, it was just like a very short story. But I am now ready to move on to Ruin and Rising, the final book. So I'm gonna get into Ruin and Rising. I don't know how much I'm going to read tonight, but I am literally so excited to jump into this book. I also forgot to mention that Alina lost her powers at the end of Siege and Storm. Like, she could no longer summon light. Don't remember that happening in the show, so I'm very curious to see how that's gonna play out in Ruin and Rising. And I literally only remembered that that was a thing because in the before section it mentions how she's so weak, doesn't have power. Also, her hair turned white at the end too because she was so weak. So I'm thinking she just needs to get her like strength back up or something. And also I'm pretty sure the Grisha like don't do well. They like look more tired, more haggard if they don't use their powers. So I'm assuming she just needs to like get the strength back up, get healthy again, and she'll have her powers. But yeah, I totally forgot that that happened, and it's definitely mention worthy. Okay, I'm a couple of chapters in now, and there was just a confrontation between Alina and the apparat. She was basically with Genya, and then all of a sudden the apparat comes like marching in with his like guards, and he has Mal and Nadia and Zoya, I think a couple other people, and he's like, these people are gonna betray you, they're gonna kill you, they've committed treason. Alina doesn't believe him and realizes that Mal and them have conducted a plan to free them because they're kind of under the apparat's control at the moment, hidden underground. He won't let Alina out to go look for the Firebird or to find Nikolai or to try to defeat the Darkling. He's just keeping her like sequestered underground in the White Cathedral. And then there's just this big confrontation. A couple of guards are dead. I don't know if I fully understand what's going on, or like if the apparat is a good or a bad guy. I don't really know. He kind of always creeped me out, so I don't know. But Alina was able to use her powers. Amazing. Love that for her. I knew it was gonna happen at some point, obviously, because how is she gonna defeat the Darkling without her powers, you know? But very intrigued to see where we go from here. Very intrigued to know what's going on with the apparat, because right now I don't fully understand. My little brain not comprehending what's going on a little bit. I absolutely adore Nikolai and Alina's interactions because he's like, I've been busy. I might have some surprises in store for the Darkling yet. Please tell me you plan to dress up as a Volcra and jump out of a cake? Well, now you've ruined the surprise. Like, are you kidding me? I love them so much. Here's another example. I forgot how often I want to stab you, so I haven't lost my touch. Nikolai, I get the hype. I really do. I get why everybody loves him because I too just adore him. Okay, I honestly love Mal and Nikolai's interactions too. Maybe I just love any interaction Nikolai has with anyone. But Mal said, thanks for the rescue. Everyone needs a hobby. I thought yours was preening. 2 hobbies. Come on. Genya and David. Genya and David. I love them. Look how cute he kissed her. When Tamar and Nadia were like hinted at in the show, I thought that was just like from the show. I never expected it to be in the book, and then to find out that it's like more so in the book because they just kissed. That never happened in the show, and I'm so here for this. And there it is. I still don't know if Kirigan came from the book though, because that's all the information that he gives us is Alexander, but there it is. I've been waiting for this moment. I'm on page 228. I'm quite far through it now, but I had to stop literally in the middle of a page because we just got the whole big spiel and story from Baghra revealing that she is Morozovan's daughter, and the whole thing with her sister and him, and crazy. The circumstances of this conversation is different in the show, but more or less it's all the same. But Alina just had the thought that like maybe her sister lived, kind of maybe she's the Firebird kind of vibe. Maybe she contained this power and it was passed down through generations, and maybe now Alina has that power. That's what I'm gleaning from what I just read, that Alina thinks that she is like related to Morozova. Which is so funny, because if the show does follow the book in any way, then Mal is the Firebird and related to Morozova. And that thought never even like crossed Alina's mind from what we know in the show. So it's wild to me that like she thought of that in the book, kind of planting that little seed, and then Leigh Bardugo is gonna like pull the rug out from under her and be like, ha, no, it's Mal. But besides that, overall, I don't really have much thoughts on this book so far. I'm enjoying it. Stop it. They're going to Ketterdam. I don't know why that makes me so excited. I'm on page 251 now, and I don't even fully know what just happened, but basically the Darkling came and was attacking Alina and everybody right as Mal and a bunch of others were gonna like go leave to go try to find the Firebird, and Alina and Nikolai were gonna go to Ketterdam. He comes and he's attacking them all, and his Nichevoya like go into Nikolai, and he starts turning into a creature. I don't know if he's turning into a Volcra because he like grows wings and claws, and I don't fully know what happened, but he like flew away. I don't know what happened to Nikolai. In the show, at the very end of the second season, they're like in a big battle, their crows are there, whatever, and he gets like kind of like hit by the Nichevoya, and then we see at the end he has like darkness in him, like veining through him. I don't even know how to describe it, and I assumed that was from King of Scars. Like, that's like the Nichevoya like got into him and maybe he was gonna go a little dark, a little evil. But like, what's going on with Nikolai right now? When are we gonna see him again? What happened to him? My poor baby. Like, poor Nikolai. Poor Nikolai. So now they're all escaping the Darkling. Lots of people died. Baghra just died, and the line is the same from the show in the book where she says, "Know that I loved you. Know that it was not enough." Kills me. It kills me every time. Something I've noticed with this book is quite a few things are also in the show, but the circumstances surrounding them are completely different. But what just happened? Like, I'm just so hung up on Nikolai right now. Like, what happened to my sweet baby prince? I'm not okay. I'm on page 318 of this book right here, and we just got to the part where we find out that Mal is indeed the amplifier. But what's different from this to the show is that in the show there's no Firebird at all. We never see a Firebird, nothing like that, and it's just Mal is the Firebird, he's the amplifier. But in the book they actually do find the Firebird, it's just not the amplifier. Mal is. So at least that's the same, that he's the amplifier, passed down, you know, he's part of Morozova line, and I was really curious about if that was gonna happen or not, and it did. We also got a couple of cute moments between Mal and Alina after they found out that he's the amplifier. They kissed a few times. It was very sweet. I do really like them together, and I'm just so curious to find out how this book ends and how it differs from how the show ends, because the show obviously ends with, you know, them defeating the Darkling, but Mal dying, and then Nina as a Heartrender brings him back to life. No, I just remembered it's not Nina that brings him back to life. She's trying, but then Alina uses Murzost, I think, to bring him back to life. Doesn't she? Oh my god, now I can't even remember. But regardless, Nina's not in this book, obviously, so I don't know if she's gonna ask Tolia or Tamara to help. They are the Heartrenders that she has, or what, but I'm very, very intrigued to read the end of this book. Things are crazy. I need to know what's going on with Nikolai. I need him to be okay. I mean, obviously he's okay enough to have his own duology, but my baby Nikolai, my Prince Perfect, I adore him and I miss him dearly. Like, he's just like a bird kind of thing flying around. Where's my baby? I miss him. This part with Mal and Alina, like, stop it right now. Mal is talking about what he would have been if he didn't know Alina. He said, "I would have been different too without you. Weaker, reckless, afraid of the dark. But no matter who or what I was, I would have been yours." Stop. And then at the bottom, this part's in the show. "I wanted more for you. A white veil in your hair, vows we could keep." Stop it. Look at that. King of Scars. Love that. I just finished Ruin and Rising. Stop. I finally read this series. I honestly cannot believe it. This has been such a long time coming, but I finished it. I also finished all the bonus content, which we will talk about, but that ending was crazy and quite different from the show, but I don't really want to focus on the show anymore. I focused on it way too much. But Alina lost her powers at the end of this book. She lost her powers when she went to kill Mal because she needed to use him as an amplifier, and because of that she lost her powers and is no longer Grisha. Crazy. I don't really know what happened after that, like how the fold came down. It talked about like bursts of light coming from places. I think it was coming from the other Grisha, but I'm gonna be real honest, I don't really understand it. My brain's a little bit too small for that. So somehow the fold got brought down. She killed the Darkling by stabbing him in the heart. Love that. I was correct, and Tolia and Tamar saved Mal because they were the Heartrenders there, so Nina just kind of took over that role in the show. And then I feel like I knew how this book ended, like this next part. Like, it came to me as I was reading the ending, but I'm pretty sure after I watched the second season, I think I talked to maybe Lisa about the books and the show and how they were different, and I think I told her that I was never going to read the book so she could spoil me for the ending, because I remembered right before it like was revealed and it happened that Alina goes into like hiding at the end of the book. Like she just kind of disappears, takes on a new name, a new identity, and she says that the Sun Summoner died in the fold in the battle, and I knew that. So it came back to me in a rush that I had this conversation with, I believe, Lisa. But yeah, Alina and Mal both change their names, take on new identities so they can start to live ordinary lives and they're not gonna have targets on their back. They get married in the little epilogue and they run the orphanage together. Karamzin, I can't. That made me so emotional. I honestly really liked the ending of this. It was obviously very different in the show, like I said, and I'm very curious to read the King of Scars duology to see what they brought from that into the show. But my baby Nikolai, he's okay. He's the king. He went back to normal after the Darkling died. Thank God. Like, I knew it was gonna happen, but thank God, you know? I love me, my baby Nikolai. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. The beginning was a little bit slow for me. I was not enjoying the apparat and then being like underground in the White Cathedral. That was not my favorite part. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. The bonus content, Q&A, I've enjoyed those with every single book. The artwork was fun to look at. I did read The Demon in the Wood, which is the Darkling prequel story, and I'm gonna be real honest, I kind of skimmed most of it, and I believe that's the one that was turned into like a graphic novel, and I feel like people didn't love it, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna read it because I honestly was kind of bored throughout that entire thing. Now we can end this vlog, talk about the series as a whole. I was gonna rank this series in order of my least favorite to favorite, but honestly could not tell you. At first I was like, maybe this one was my favorite and these ones are kind of interchangeable, but I don't even think that's it, because after reading this I was like, I preferred the first season, so I don't really know which one is my favorite. I think I enjoyed them all for different reasons. Overall though, this is not like an absolute favorite series for me. There's other fantasy series that I do love more, but I will say I love the characters. Chenya and Nikolai and Mal and Alina and all of them. I really do love them all, and I really love the world. Like, I love the world so much, and that is why I want to read King of Scars and I want to reread Six of Crows, because I do just want to spend more time in this world that Leigh Bardugo has created. It just feels so real and expansive, and I really enjoy that. And I'm just glad that I finally read this series. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, and it honestly doesn't even feel real that I finally read it, but there we go. I read the Grisha trilogy. I know this video was a super long one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it to the end, you are a real one. Please comment down below a black heart emoji. If you made it to the very end, I love you so much. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a huge thumbs up if you did. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the Grisha trilogy, because I'd really love to know. Let me know which one is your favorite. Let me know if you prefer the show to the books. Let me know all of your thoughts. Subscribe if you have not yet already. If you guys are excited, I will be doing vlogs for my reread of Six of Crows and for the King of Scars duology, so stay tuned for those, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!